6 months since it all started, and I still can't wrap my head around what happened. I guess I'm hoping that by writing it all down, maybe someone out there can help me make sense of it, or at least tell me I'm not going crazy. So, here goes. My name's Sarah, and up until last year, I was just your average 28-year-old trying to figure out life. I had a decent job at a local bookstore, a tiny apartment that I shared with my cat, Mr. Whiskers, and a husband I loved more than anything in the world. Tom and I met in college. He was this goofy guy with messy brown hair and the kindest green eyes you've ever seen. We clicked right away, bonding over our shared love of bad horror movies and even worse puns. We got married 2 years after graduation, in a small ceremony with just our closest friends and family. It wasn't fancy, but it was perfect. For 3 years, life was good. Sure, we had our ups and downs, but we were happy. We were talking about starting a family, maybe buying a house. You know, all those grown-up things you're supposed to do. But then last year, everything changed. It was a rainy Tuesday in October. Tom had gone out to grab some groceries. He was supposed to be back in time for us to watch the latest episode of our favorite show. I remember sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, wondering why he was taking so long. Then the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find 2 police officers standing there, their faces grim. My heart dropped before they even opened their mouths. I knew. Somehow I just knew. "Mrs. Thompson?" one of them asked. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. "I'm sorry to inform you, but there's been an accident." The rest of that night is a blur. I remember bits and pieces. The officers telling me that a drunk driver had run a red light, hitting Tom's car, that he died instantly, that they were so sorry. I remember calling Tom's parents, my voice breaking as I tried to explain what happened. I remember my best friend Lisa rushing over and holding me as I sobbed until I had no tears left. The funeral was 3 days later. It was a beautiful service, I guess. People kept telling me how lovely it was, how Tom would have appreciated it. But honestly, I barely remember any of it. I was like a zombie, going through the motions, shaking hands and accepting hugs from people whose faces I couldn't even focus on. We buried Tom in Oakwood Cemetery under a big oak tree. His tombstone was simple, just like he would have wanted. Thomas Thompson, beloved husband and son, 1995 to 2023. For months after, I was lost. I'd wake up in the middle of the night reaching for Tom, only to find his side of the bed cold and empty. I'd catch myself picking up my phone to text him about something funny that happened at work, only to remember he wasn't there to read it. But slowly, painfully, I started to put my life back together. I went back to work. I started seeing a grief counselor. I even managed to smile again now and then. And then came the day that changed everything. Again. It was the 1-year anniversary of Tom's death. October 15th, 2024. I decided to visit his grave, like I'd been doing every month since the funeral. It was a crisp autumn day, leaves crunching under my feet as I made my way through the cemetery. I brought flowers, sunflowers, Tom's favorite. As I approached his grave, I rehearsed in my head what I was going to say. It sounds silly, but I always felt like I was really talking to him when I visited. But when I got to the grave, the words died in my throat. I blinked. Sure, I must be seeing things. I rubbed my eyes, but the image didn't change. There, on Tom's tombstone, right below his name, was mine. Sarah Thompson, 1995. The date of death was blank, but my name was there, clear as day, carved into the stone as if it had always been there. I dropped the flowers, my hands shaking. "What the hell?" I whispered, reaching out to touch the stone. It was real. The carving was there, under my fingertips. I looked around wildly, half expecting to see someone jump out and yell, "Gotcha!" But the cemetery was empty, silent except for the rustling of leaves in the wind. I fumbled for my phone, nearly dropping it as I pulled it out of my pocket. With trembling fingers, I snapped a picture of the tombstone, then another, and another. "This can't be real," I muttered to myself. "This can't be happening." But it was, and little did I know, it was only the beginning. I'll post the next part soon. Writing this has brought it all back, and I need a minute to collect myself. But there's so much more to tell. God, I hope someone out there can help me make sense of this. After After I found my name on Tom's tombstone, I kinda lost it. I mean, wouldn't you? I remember sitting on the ground next to his grave, my brain trying to make sense of what I was seeing. I must have been there for hours, because when I finally snapped out of it, the sun was setting. I stumbled home in a daze. As soon as I got in, I called Lisa. "Sarah, what's wrong?" she asked as soon as she picked up. I guess my voice gave me away. "Lisa, I need you to come over, please. Something's happened." She was at my door in 15 minutes. I showed her the pictures on my phone, my hands shaking so bad I nearly dropped it. "Oh my God," she whispered, her eyes wide. "Sarah, this isn't possible." "I know," I said, my voice cracking. "But it's there, Lisa. I touched it. It's real." We spent the next few hours calling everyone we could think of. The cemetery office closed for the day. The company that made Tom's headstone also closed. Even the police, who basically told us that unless someone was actively trying to kill me, there wasn't much they could do. Lisa offered to stay the night, but I told her I'd be okay. Big mistake. As soon as she left, the apartment felt different, colder somehow, like all the warmth had been sucked out of it. I tried to distract myself by watching TV, but I couldn't focus. Every little noise made me jump. Around midnight, I finally decided to try and get some sleep. I was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. But as I was brushing my teeth, I heard something that made my blood run cold. Footsteps, coming from the living room. I froze, toothbrush halfway to my mouth. It couldn't be Mr. Whiskers. He was curled up on my bed, and I lived alone. The footsteps got closer, slow, heavy steps, like someone was taking their time, knowing I had nowhere to run. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I looked around frantically for something, anything I could use as a weapon. I grabbed my hairdryer, not ideal, but better than nothing. The footsteps stopped right outside the bathroom door. I held my breath, gripping the hairdryer so tight my knuckles turned white. Then I heard it, a voice, soft, familiar, impossible. "Sarah." It was Tom's voice. I dropped the hairdryer, the crash echoing in the tiny bathroom. This couldn't be happening. Tom was dead. I'd watched them lower his coffin into the ground. "Sarah, honey, are you okay?" The door handle started to turn. I backed up until I hit the wall, a scream building in my throat. The door swung open. There was nobody there. I stood there, shaking, for what felt like hours. Eventually, I managed to peek out into the hallway. Empty. The whole apartment was empty. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I sat on my bed, lights on, jumping at every little sound. When the sun finally came up, I felt like I'd aged 10 years. I called in sick to work and went straight to the cemetery. I had to see the tombstone again. Had to know if I'd imagined the whole thing. But when I got there, my heart nearly stopped. The tombstone was gone. In its place was a freshly dug hole, an open grave. I stumbled backward, my foot catching on something. I looked down and saw a shovel, a dirty, used shovel. And there, stuck to the handle, was a note. In handwriting I knew better than my own. "I'm coming home, Sarah. Wait for me." I ran. I ran faster than I've ever run in my life. I didn't stop until I reached my car, fumbling with the keys, constantly looking over my shoulder. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of something in my rearview mirror. A figure standing by Tom's empty grave. A figure with messy brown hair and familiar green eyes. I'm at Lisa's place now. I can't go back to my apartment. I don't know what to do. Am I going crazy? Is this really happening? And the worst part? A small, terrible part of me wants it to be real. Wants Tom to really be coming back. Even if he's not the same Tom I knew. God, what's happening to me? I'll update again when I can. If I can. Please, if anyone has any idea what's going on, help me. I'm scared. I'm so scared. Edit. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. It's been 3 days since I last posted. 3 days of pure hell. But I promised I'd keep you updated, so here goes. After I fled to Lisa's place, things got worse. So much worse. That first night at Lisa's, I woke up screaming. In my dream, I was back in the cemetery. Tom was there, standing by his open grave. But he wasn't the Tom I remembered. His skin was pale, almost gray. His eyes were empty, black holes in his face. He reached out to me, his fingers elongated and twisted like tree roots. "Sarah," he said, his voice a raspy whisper. "Why did you leave me?" I jolted awake, drenched in sweat. Lisa came running in, worry etched on her face. "Sarah, what's wrong?" I opened my mouth to answer, but then I saw it. There, on Lisa's bedroom wall. Words dripping down the wallpaper like fresh blood. "I'm waiting for you, Sarah," I screamed. Lisa flicked on the lights, but as soon as they came on, the words vanished, gone like they'd never been there. Lisa thought I was losing it. Hell, I thought I was losing it. But I knew what I saw. The next day, things got even stranger. We went to the police station to file a report about the missing tombstone. The officer looked at us like we were crazy. "Ma'am," he said, tapping away at his computer, "according to our records, there's no Thomas Thompson buried at Oakwood Cemetery." My jaw dropped. "What? No, that's impossible. I was just there. I've been visiting his grave for a year." The officer shrugged. "I'm sorry, but there's no record of it. Are you sure you have the right cemetery?" We left the station more confused than ever. On the drive back to Lisa's, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You can't hide from me, Sarah. I'm coming for you." I showed Lisa. She immediately turned the car around, heading back to the police station. But by the time we got there, the message had disappeared from my phone, like it had never existed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Tom's face. Not the Tom I loved, but the thing from my dream. I sat in Lisa's guest room, lights on, jumping at every little sound. Around 3 a.m., I heard it, scratching, coming from inside the walls. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It got louder, more frantic, like something was trying to claw its way out. Then, a voice. Tom's voice, but wrong, distorted. "Sarah, let me in, Sarah." I backed into the corner of the room, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The scratching got louder and louder, and then the wall started to bulge. I watched in horror as the wallpaper stretched and tore. A hand pushed through, gray, decayed, with long, twisted fingers. I screamed. I screamed so loud I thought my throat would tear. Lisa came running in. The moment she opened the door, everything stopped. The hand disappeared. The wall was intact, like nothing had happened. But I knew what I saw. I knew it was real. Lisa didn't believe me. How could she? It sounded insane. She suggested I see a doctor, maybe get some sleep medication. I nodded, agreed to whatever she said. But inside, I knew. This wasn't in my head. This was real. And it was only getting worse. Yesterday, I went back to my apartment to grab some clothes. As soon as I walked in, I knew something was wrong. It was cold, so cold I could see my breath. And the smell. God, the smell. Like wet earth and decay. I ran to my bedroom, grabbed whatever I could fit in a bag. As I was about to leave, I saw it. On my bed. A single red rose, and next to it, a note. "Till death do us part, remember?" I don't know what to do anymore. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Every shadow looks like him. Every noise sounds like his voice. And now I'm starting to wonder. What if I should let him in? What if this is my fault? For trying to move on? For not waiting for him? No, that's crazy talk, right? I'm losing my mind. I know I am. But I also know this is real. Tom is coming back, and I don't think I can stop him. If anyone out there knows what's happening, please help me. Please. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. I'll try to update again, if I can. If I'm still here. God help me. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and comment to let me know which story you liked the most.